Hello, hello. Good evening. Episode 32 of Ask Andrew Anything. Hi, hi. Wait, it is World Cup season. How cool is that? So we're going to rush this through because today is Germany versus Japan. And I'm supporting Japan. It's Asia. Okay. So let's go. Quick introduction. My name is Andrew. I'm known as the email guy. Nobody gave me that title. I just give that title myself. So it's not a in award or recognition or something, but part of branding. Okay. Let's see. And yeah, let's go through this now. There you go. All right. So that's what I do. I every Wednesday, half an hour. All right. And let's go back to the oh well. Anyway. Oh, I'm supposed to do this. So there you go. Yeah, that's how it works. There. Okay. So if you have any questions, feel free to send to this link, andrewns.digital. I always put Andrew. Unfortunately, the domain has been taken up. Ans.digital / ask Andrew anything. If you have a phone, you can just basically scan the QR code and it will lead you to a simple Google form where you fill in your email and then just type in your questions and I'll answer them on the following Wednesday. Okay. And if you want to connect with me, I'm more active on LinkedIn. And because that's where my customers hang out, most of my customers are in the B2B space. So if I mean the same thing we would do, where your prospects are, then you hang out there. So that's what I do. It's in LinkedIn. Follow me if you want. And no sound when you're showing the QR code. Oh yeah, I'm trying to fix this. I couldn't hear my voice also. So, anyways, now it's okay, Kevin. See, that's a cool stuff. See. And by the way, thanks for subscribing to my subject lines email. Okay, now it's okay. Fine, cool. Okay, so where was I? LinkedIn. So follow. Click on the follow button, and you'd like to be notified whenever I post anything. I've not been active this week. I've been busy with some delivering projects delivery that I need to finish off. But next week I should be back. All right. Then if you want to be notified, just click on the bell button. All right. So that's that. So let's get to today. We have two questions. One is from Diane, and she's asking any email tips for Black Friday. Diane, today is Wednesday. I think Black Friday is happening on Friday, so it's a bit too late for this. But nevertheless, I think for the sake of everyone and yourself included, if you haven't done anything. So here's my experience working with a couple of e-com clients. Right, I don't do that many. And it's only started, so over time, once I get more experience, I'll share more information. But I'm sharing what I know now. Okay. One is, let me see, what do you have? Okay, there's always this debate between graphic versus text, right? In terms of emails, right? Should I send emails which is a lot of images and all those things, or should I send text-based email? Now for e-commerce, I would recommend that you use both. Now, for graphics, it's pretty obvious, right? E-commerce, you are selling products. Very rare. I mean, you sell services. So especially for Black Friday, it's products. Okay, so your graphics is important because you want to feature your hero products. Right? You can say how great it is and describe it in text, but nothing beats having a picture of your product in your email. So in this case, graphics would be graphics are heavy kind of emails would be the preferred path. Okay, and then text. So in terms of so-called ratio, I would suggest between 80 and 20. Okay, so you want to mix it up. So maybe 3 or 4 emails that you send initially would be in graphics emails, and then maybe the balance, in between, you can switch between text email. Now, the reason why we use text because it helps in helps in the deliverability because it's pure text. Now, the second thing I realize is certain so-called inbox providers, right, like Gmail and all those things. Now, certain inbox providers, for example, they tend to so-called hide your images, especially if you're not sending to their users that often. Okay, so very likely then, no matter how great or how beautiful is your graphic emails, very likely, unless if they press that button that to show image, for example, they will not be shown. So it's very important when you do graphical image or graphical emails is to have the alternate text for each and every one of your image block. All right. So in text, it's just text. So in terms of opening or basically showing the emails, it is definitely better than graphics. So what you want to do is you want to then balance off, do 80% or maybe 20 or 70, 30, for example, so that some of them, if they do not see the graphic emails and then when they receive the text emails, you can still link them back to your store. Okay. So that's one thing. Second thing is you obviously most of my clients are running on Shopify, right? I don't have much experience on the other platforms, right? So what I do know is, and most of them either choose between these two. Okay, these are what you call e-com dedicated email service providers. So what the difference between this and, for example, like MailerLite, which I use, or even Tanos Smiley, for example, they are for content creators, mostly, although they have templates for graphics and all those things, but it's more designed towards, text heavy kind of senders. Whereas in terms of Omnisend and Klaviyo, they are more designed or skewed towards e-com. So what they have is they have so-called e-commerce flows or email flows, which is related to e-com, for example, like your abandoned carts, your browser abandonment, and all those things. You can obviously build that in your Smiley or even your MailerLite, but you could do it manually. Whereas in these two platforms that I work with, all right, or that my clients has, they already have this, and all you need to do is to adjust the timing, for example, and put in the content of your email. So the flows are available, so it's faster that way. Okay, so generally these are two, and you got to make sure that whatever email service providers that you use, it must be back-end connected to Shopify. So you need to check. I think MailChimp used to be connected or able to have this API connection to Shopify. I don't know whether it has been changed. At what point they opted out from connecting with Shopify. I don't know what has changed since. So you go to, if you have a Shopify store, you then go to I think the marketplace where you can look at ESPs that already have built-in API connection to Shopify. Now, the reason why you need that is because whenever customer comes in or make a purchase, for example, and when they enter their email address, this information would then flow to your ESPs. And from there, you can then build up your email list, obviously. And then you can then build up, send your emails and do all the stuff like your abandoned carts and all those things. Okay. So these are the two, Diane. And then the third thing is now, the reason, one of the benefit when you integrate to Shopify, for example, you can then segment based on the products that the users or so-called your shoppers, for example, may go. And then you can also do stuff like, for example, browsing. Now, that means, for example, let's say, but this has to happen if the particular user, let's say myself, have signed up for so-called the email list, right? So what it does is there's this little cookie that is plugged within your browser. So whenever I visit a store, and for example, if I select or basically browse through certain items, because you're registered, okay, that means I already have your email address. I can then set a trigger to the ESPs, for example, to send a follow-up email maybe an hour or 2 hours later and say, hey, Andrew, you just browse these items. Would you be interested to, know more, or, would you like to buy, and all those things? So that's what the term they use is browse abandonment. Okay, which means just browsing. It's not add to cart yet. All right. So these are the little stuff that these so-called e-commerce related ESPs allows you to do. Okay. So that's one thing that you need to be aware of. So, okay, let me just change. Let me just clear this. Where am I? Uh, okay, let's clear this. Just a minute. Okay, so you're done with this. What else do we have? Oh, okay. So the key flows, emails flows that you need to have is number one is obviously abandoned cart. This is must have because stats have said that about 70% of people who browse actually, abandon their carts, right? Or 70% of shoppers actually abandon their carts, right? So this is a very big number that you want to recover the sales. So when you have abandoned carts, you then remind them maybe every 1 day or 2 days, for example, because there's always this, when you're shopping, there are interruption, or maybe sometimes your credit card may not work, for example, or you may not have the credit card with you, for example, and then you get distracted and you forget about it, right? So these are the important email recovery that you can use because it costs you very little rather than running ads, for example. Obviously, you can run retargeting ads, but that costs money, all right? A lot more compared to if you run an email abandoned cart. So you need to have this. Number two is, like I mentioned, your browse abandonment. That's something cool to have. Right? So if they browse something and they shown interest, for example, you could either segment them. Remember, browse abandonment works if only the users already pre-registered their address. So when you do that, how can you actually collect this address? Is when you have your pop-up, right, where you invite them into, let's say, sign up for your newsletter, for example, or sign up as your VIP subscribers whatsoever. So when you have this, and then obviously in exchange, you may give them a 10% off coupon or first time buyer 20% off, whatever it is, to entice them to give your email address in exchange for the freebies that you offer. Okay. So this is how you grow your email list with regards to ecom. Okay. And the other one is your thank you page. Now, it is not your typical thank you page that that you will probably expect. But what you can do with your thank you page is you can then offer upsells. Okay, so let's say if I buy one item, and when I conclude the transaction, it gets to the thank you page. You can then propose or offer them other items that is related or complementary to whatever they are purchasing, for example, and that's how you can increase your LTV, right? Or either your LTV, or some call it your, what do you call it, the card, what was this, card value, right? So you increase your card value, right? So instead of, let's say, an item costs $70, and then you then upsell them to something of another $100, so your card value has increased from 70 to 170. So this is how you can increase your sales. Okay, Diane. So tips for Black Friday: obviously, you need to segment your users. You can segment them earlier once you integrate to your Shopify store. You can segment them based on their browse habits or the products that they look at. You can then obviously do the four, I call it the four bigs, which is your abandoned cart, your browse, and then, for example, even your pop-ups to grow your emails, and then obviously your thank you page. right? What else? Email tips. Okay, then do a mix between graphics, heavy email, and text, right? Text email guarantees you in terms of deliverability or email opens, for example, whereas graphics is important because you want to feature your hero products. And then I think the previous, I can't remember which segment I talked about how you can actually minimize so-called the mail being truncated by Google, right? There's a size for the mail. You cannot exceed 102 kilobyte or in terms of the email size, and how you can watch, how you can actually make sure your graphics email will still show up and not be truncated. So look back, I think it's episode 20 or 30, so around there, right? Go back and then have a look at it, how you can actually do that. Okay, so that's what else you need to do. Now it's a bit too late because it's too tight, but generally speaking, you can start sending emails 2 weeks. What I would recommend is between 1 to 2 weeks before Black Friday and Cyber Monday to build up the relationship, also to build up their for them to remember you, for example, especially if you have not sent emails that often, right? So once you build up that, then during the BFCM week, then if you can, because it's about what 5 days, you can do about 1 week campaign. You can send daily emails for a week. Okay, and then you taper off and then go back to your normal weekly or twice a week email send at the end of the BFCM campaign, right? So that's how you should do it. And because you're competing with a lot of others, if you look at your email inbox, for example, you probably, if you've subscribed to other e-commerce sites, you'll probably be seeing a lot of emails coming in now. Okay, and one more thing, timers. Right. So if, for example, 2 days before or 2 days before Black Friday closes, for example, that's where you deploy timers. Right. So timers is the emails that you use, not emails, but particular service where it counts down to the last day, and it creates that element of urgency for your users. Now, I would recommend that you use timers maybe 3 days before at most, right? Before the end of BFCM, because anything earlier, general human beings is, there's still time. And so there's no urgency. So 3 days, 2 days, or 1 day before, those emails should have timers because it increases you can call it FOMO, but generally increases the urgency because now they know they have X amount of time left before making a decision to buy. And right? It definitely helps in terms of conversions, but don't drag it too far early, right? Too early upfront, but make it as close as possible to the closing date. Then you add timers to your emails. Okay, so Diane, I hope that helps. And with that, let's go to the next one. Okay, Deepak has this question. Okay, let me see who else is. Okay, Deepak has this question. What other tools should I need aside from ESP if I want to do email marketing? Okay, let's obviously you know about ESP, which is either your MailerLite, your Smiley, for example, your MailChimp. Those are what you call ESPs, which are tools that allows you to gather your email list and then allows you to segment your email list and then send emails in bulk. Okay, so that's what ESP is all about. Let me switch this while I fix. Okay, all right. Okay, let's go back. Okay, so a few tools which I personally use. Let's start with from the top. Okay, number one is you want to make sure that your email list, especially if you're starting out, so you have a list of a database or an Excel list of emails address, and you're not sure, whether they're correct or whether they're accurate, and all those things. So what I would recommend is to clean up your email list, and you can use a tool like this, email list validation. So there are many tools available, Zero Bounce, there's just many, just pick one, okay, just pick one. And the idea is when you run through this list and upload this list, they will actually clean up the list, your list, and tell you which are the emails are valid, number one. Number two is if, especially if your the way you collect your emails, right? So if you happen to have somebody just pass you the list of emails that you're not sure, I would recommend that you run through this, clean up, and to make sure that some are no spam traps. Now, what spam traps are, generally speaking, is it is deployed by either your inboxing providers. The idea is they embed this email list. Just a minute. They embed this email list, and the moment you hit or you send to this, they will know that you actually bought this list illegally, and they may take steps to either ban your sending, and or your emails automatically get so-called sent to spam. Okay, so it's very important that you clean your email. So I use a tool like this to clean up lists for my own emails and also for my clients. Okay, so once you have done with this, number two is you want to look at deliverability. That means what are the percentage or what are the chances that your the emails that you send will either end up in spam or classified um, as spam and may not be inbox, right? Because we want end of the day is to send emails so that our recipient receives them in either the inbox or at the very least in the promotion tab. Okay, so this tool allows you, which is called Glock Apps, to test email deliverability across a wide range of email inbox providers. Okay, from Yahoo, Gmail, Hotmail, Outlook, Exchange, all this, they will have this list. So once you have, generally what you do is they give you a list of emails which has contained all these inboxes, and you send your emails to this box, and then it will report to you and say, what's the rate? Yeah, in let's say in Outlook, your email is considered spam, or in Gmail is considered promotional tab, for example. That gives you an idea on your deliverability, and you run this regularly, maybe every 3 or 6 months, to make sure that your emails are being sent to the right people and the emails are being received. So you can use this tool called Glock Apps. Another one is Send Forensics. So these are tools I use interchangeably in order for me to test and to help my clients with their email deliverability. Okay. Now, for free ones, you can try something like this. For example, let's say you're curious and say, hey, I create this email and I'm not sure whether the content is considered spammy or not. And before I send, what do I do? So you can actually use this tool called MailReach. It's free. All you need to do is you insert this code inside your email. And then in MailReach case, they will give you a list of emails that you should include inside your list. And you send to this email list, and then they will report to you once the emails has been sent, what's the percentage or how spammy is your emails. Another free tool is what you call Mail Tester. Okay, this is quite straightforward. You send, they'll give you an email. It's rotating, it's random. They'll give you a list of an email address, and you include this in your. You can just send your preview emails, send to here, and then you can check your score. All right, they will tell you a score between 1 to 10, and what are the things that you can improve. It's free. These are the two free stuff. So if you want, you can actually test this for your email spams. Your spamminess level of your email. Okay. The third one is okay. I gotta switch this too. I just realized that. Obviously, if you want to have images in your email, this is pretty obvious, I guess, for everyone. You can use Canva. Okay, I use Canva because I don't know how to use Photoshop and all the other fancy graphic design tools. I'm not a graphic designer by training, so I use Canva a lot for my emails, especially if I want to create some animation or some email headers, for example, or for that matter, when I run e-commerce emails, then that's where I use this tool. So one of the best or more user-friendly graphic design tools that you can, especially for non-designers like us. Okay. And then the third one is Zapier. This is a great tool, although a bit costly. Generally, a great tool for you to, let me show you. Let me do this. So Zapier is an automation tool. I tend to call it a bridge. I don't have a term for it. Is to connect between one application to another application. Okay, for example, let's say I can create, for example, I download certain things inside Google Sheets. Okay, I can use Zapier and then connect it to my ESP. So whenever I update my Google Sheet, the information will get that's transferred to the ESP. So Zapier is great because you can do stuff. For example, when somebody signs up for a Zoom webinar, you can then integrate, transfer the data from Zoom registration when you sign up for the webinar or meeting, for example. Transfer this information into your ESPs. Or for example, I think in the previous one, I think it was Kevin or Ida was another guy who was mentioning, when you sign up for your Tidy, in my case, I use TidyCare for calendaring. Some of you may use Cleanly, for example. So if somebody signs up for a meeting with you, the information, which is email and maybe phone numbers, you can then use Zapier in the back end to connect it straight to your ESP. So this is how the good thing about ESPs, about Zapier, is it works behind the scene to connect two apps or two different apps together, and so that you can transfer information through and fro. So if you want to use automation, there are other tools. I can't remember the names now. There are other competitors. If you do Zapier alternatives, you probably can see that. But personally, for me, I use primarily Zapier, although it's a bit more expensive, but the amount of integration that's available is just mind-blowing, right? You can even integrate between Facebook and your ESPs, or your ESPs to your Facebook to upload custom audience and all those stuff. So a lot of cool stuff that you can do, all right, with Zapier. And what's the next one? Once you have done with Zapier, let's go through. Okay, forgive me, I'm going to switch screen from time to time from here. When you do image, remember about image size, although the image size doesn't affect your email size because image is a link from another server, so that's fine. But you want to load your image to load fast, right? So what you do is you then compress the image that you created, your PNGs, for example, by using a tool like Optimizilla, right? So email optimizers or imagecompressor.com, right? So this tool allows you to compress the image to a smaller size, and so that it then shows up into the inbox faster, it loads faster. Okay, so that's one tool that you can use. Yeah, well, okay, TidyCal needs to pay. I think even Cleanly, you need to pay also for it. I subscribe to the paid one, so, it's fine. You just use either one of them. Indeed, it's a small price to pay, especially if you're in a business of, closing deals with customers through the phone or through your Zoom. Then a calendar kind of tool like this would be useful in your business. It's a small part to pay, said Kevin. You're right. Okay, so this is one tool that you can use. And let me see, what's the next one? Okay, so when it comes to writing, okay, you probably have heard about Grammarly. It's a great tool. They have the free version and you have the paid version. Paid version has a few more so-called features that's available. But generally speaking, even with the free version, what you want is this. When you write your emails, you want to run through a tool like this to quickly pick up, for example, whether you can simplify the wordings, or either the wordings could be a bit more complicated, for example, or the readability of your sentence, for example, can be simplified. Because end of the day, it's not it's all about clarity. It's not about being clever with your copy, right? You want to deliver the message or email content to as in the simplest way as possible for your reader to understand. That's why you don't want to show off that you're super creative. You want to show off that you can actually communicate good. Okay, so use a tool like Grammarly. Another free tool that you can use is also Hemingway app. Okay, if you use it online, it's free. If you want to use the desktop version, I think it's paid. I think it's 19 USD, one-time fee of 19.90, which means is so-called an app that you load into your desktop or either your notebook, and then you can work from there. Whereas if you use just the online tool, it's free. Okay, so what it does is, generally speaking, it tells you about your readability. So once you have keyed in your, for example, your text, your copy and paste this text, it will tell you your readability. The idea is try to aim for as low as possible. Grade 3, grade 2, grade 1, which means your message is presented in as simpler way to understand as possible. Okay, it will tell you number of words, for example. It will also do, your adverbs, your passive voice. They will encourage that you use active voice in your content. Phrase, there's other alternative that you can use, all right? So tool like this helps in terms of you fine-tuning or refining your copy. Okay, these two, and if in any case you just use these two tools, will be enough for you to write your emails. Okay. So I mentioned about Klaviyo just now, right? So this is e-commerce centric ESP, and the other option is Omnisend. Okay, I've not touched Klaviyo yet. So far, most of my clients happen to be on Omnisend, so I've been working on the Omnisend platform. But generally speaking, both of them are similar. The difference, okay, the thing is, both providers also include the SMS option. Okay, so you can send emails, you can also send SMS through these two platforms. So that's the key differentiating factor between your normal MailChimp, MailerLite, or even Smiley. Okay, because for e-commerce, sometimes you may not reach your customer, through emails, because when they sign up, there's an option to opt in through Shopify, right? So sometimes they may not, they prefer to receive by SMS. So you need to use a combination of these two tools in order to reach your users. Okay, so these are to answer. Just a minute. When you're going to switch, this gets confusing. So Deepak, these are the tools that you need aside from your ESPs. If you want to go through the names, you just rewatch this video. I've gone through as slow as possible so that you can capture the names. I'm not going to list it down here, but just go through this video and you can use these tools and try them out, or at the very least know the function of these tools and look for alternatives. There could be others which are a bit more cheaper, for example. But generally, you want a tool to clean your email. You want a tool to check your email deliverability, for example. You want a tool that helps you with refining your copywriting or your writing for your emails. You want an image tool, which is generally image creation tools, which is Canva. And then a tool that helps you reduce the size of your image so that it loads fast. What else? Deliverability. Yeah, that's about it. These are the few tools that you need in order for you to start doing your email marketing. Obviously, you have some like YouTube video recordings and all those things, but that's aside. If you as long as you have videos on YouTube, chances are you would have video editing tools or hosting tools already, right? So those are the add-ons that surrounds the entire email ecosystem. So with that, I'm supposed to do this fast. I'm going to miss. Okay, so remember, email is just one channel. Okay. Oh, wait, let me. That's the thing when you try to run the whole show yourself. So email generally is just one channel. But in order to make sure or to leverage on the power of emails, you want to wrap it around the entire campaign. All right. And it starts from generating ads because that's where you drive traffic. All right. Or unless you want to do just organic. But for speed, you want to use paid ads in order to drive traffic. And then you want your email set up to be ready to capture audience. And then you have landing pages, right? So as a conversion mechanism, for example, and even if you have tools like Kevin, he uses Tidycal or Calendly, for example, you still need to host it into a page. And that's how the landing page is useful for you to do conversion and for you to take them to the next step. Okay. So the entire thing, in order for you to get right, is something that I am offering now, which is I call it one campaign challenge, where I work with you from your ads copy to your landing page to your email sequences to even your social media posts for one campaign. Right. The idea is to narrow down the scope to just one campaign so that you can focus your energy. You can look at the results for one particular campaign as opposed to many different campaigns. Just do one at a time. This is what I call the one campaign challenge. You can go to my landing page. It's called onechallenge.ants.digital. Book a call through Tidycal, Kevin, and we can then get on a 30 minutes or 15 minutes call for me to understand exactly what you want to achieve with this campaign and whether I would be able to help you or not. All right. So there's no guarantee that every single campaigns will work. I need to assess and also need to know what is your success metrics and whether I can meet the success metrics. Okay. So that's one option for you to consider. And finally, like I say, if you have questions for next week, fill in, go to this link, ends.digital, ask Andrew anything. Scan the QR code if you want to. Fill up the Google form with your questions, and I will answer them next week, like what I've done with Deepak and Diane this week. And with that, let me see. Any other questions from here? No. Okay, cool. Okay. So with that, thank you so much for your time and you watching this replay. I appreciate if you can put in comments then, or either fill in this form for your questions, and I'll see you next week. All right. Andrew Wong signing off. Have a good evening. Have a great World Cup, and let's hope Japan wins. Cheers.